Hi, and welcome to Design Your Dream Prom Dress Contest. The lucky winner gets to work with me designing their dream prom dress. All of the contestants' rules are available at the website asg.org as well as attitudecouture.com and designyourdreampromdress.com. This is the website for the contest, and the URL is designyourdreampromdress.com. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm excited to meet you, and I've been excited for all of you that have come back. We're working yet again on our Dream Prom Dress Contest, and it's of course in conjunction with the American Sewing Guild and my company. So we're working together in the next few months to come up with some new ideas for prom. So if you're sick of the same old prom dress like I am, this is your chance to rock the prom world with some new ideas. If you're joining us for the first time, this is me, and I am Robin Spint. I own Attitude Couture and also am one of the premier designers. I have been sewing since I was a little girl. I had to make all of my clothes, partially because we didn't have a lot of money, and partially because I was very tall. I only weighed 99 pounds, so if I didn't sew, I didn't have any clothes to wear. When I finished art school, I decided I couldn't make a living as a painter and became a successful jewelry designer. When I would go to shows to sell my jewelry, I would make those clothes that I wore to the shows. Unfortunately, in 1992, I was in a car accident and had to figure out something else to do because my neck got injured pretty badly. So I went back to school and got a master's degree in business. After many years of being in school and teaching, I was lucky enough to start an import business. This taught me how to work with sewing factories overseas and get my dresses made into samples. From that, I created Attitude Couture. Since I've been sewing forever and ever, it's always been my dream to be a clothing designer, especially because people come up to me all the time and ask me wherever did I get what I was wearing. I'm always proud to respond, "Oh, you can't buy that dress, I made it." My dream finally came true when I met a gentleman who was selling dresses that were manufactured in China. We started Crush by R.J. Formals together 5 years ago. My former partner and I have since parted ways, but Attitude Couture lives on and is now providing me an opportunity to share my experience with other dreamers like you. Tonight's webinar is going to be about design parameters. If you look at the high schools all over the country, the designs that the schools allow them to wear and the dress codes vary from region to region. Based on some of the recent articles, there are certain design features that the schools really don't look favorably on, like cutouts, exposing too much flesh, slits that are too high. These kinds of designs are being prohibited at most proms. So we're going to kind of do things in reverse order and look at things that you can't do, or the list of don'ts, and then after we get those out of the way, we're going to look at the do's. So if you pay attention and listen carefully, I'm giving you in this webinar the recipe for some great design ideas that can help you become a winner of the contest. At the end of the webinar, I'd like to ask you some questions about your ideas for the good prom designs. So let's start with the don'ts. Okay, when we think about dresses, and I'm sure if you look at this picture you go, oh my God, these ladies are so beautiful and they're so sexy. But the problem is they're very open backs, And for this reason, they have many design flaws that are really no-nos. First of all, most schools won't let you come to prom dressed like this. And then the more important thing is you have to think about the retail stores. To try and fit this dress is a nightmare because even though you can't see it in the picture, there's really no side seams here. So if this doesn't fit well when they put the dress on, there's really not very much they can do to alter the dress. And remember, the more alterations that need to be done to a dress adds to the price of the dress. So most prom girls and their mothers would skip this style. So another don't is not to have open backs lower than the top of your hip. From the front view on the left side, this looks like a great idea. The opening on the side isn't too big. It's just enough to show a little bit of flesh. But then when you turn around, the back is really a big problem. And let's go over what some of the issues are. First of all, the material is jersey knit. This helps a little bit with fitting issues, but in order to wear this dress, you have to have absolutely no body fat. I mean none, nada, zippo. Otherwise, this dress will look really poor on the wearer because jersey knit is not forgiving and shows every lump, bump, and bulge. Plus, when you look at the back, it hangs dangerously low to the back of the hips. This means that there's absolutely no way to alter this dress if it doesn't fit in the front. The other problem is that strap that's fully beaded in the back. Although it's beautiful and very sexy, in order to repair that, the store owner has to remove all the beads. So say it was an inch too big at the bust. They would have to remove a ½ inch on one strap of beads and a ½ inch of beads on the other strap, and then sew it and hide where they removed the beads from. That is an alteration nightmare. So most store owners will pass on this design because it can only fit maybe 1 out of 12 girls who come into the store. That's a very high probability of a piece of inventory to have in the store with no sale. This is a good style. It's called the high-low, and they come in to fashion trend and they go. This is a really good example and an attractive version of a high-low. As we move through the webinar tonight, you'll see another one that's really not a good version of a high-low. They come in and out of fashion. What do you think? Is this something you would want to wear to prom? No cutouts. Cutouts are really bad. This dress, even though it's really pretty and it's really sexy, it has the same issues again too. You have to be extremely thin with no bumps and no bulges. And there's a lot of skin showing. That strap that goes around the back, if it doesn't fit correctly, has to be unbeaded, or worse yet, if it needs to be made larger. There's really no way to add beads to this. So although this dress looks really attractive on the model, and it does, it's not appropriate in many ways. There's too much skin showing. The slit is way too high. It will only fit a small number of customers with really very few ways to alter the dress. A better alternative is to use this concept, but maybe where the cutouts are, put some sheer fabric and bead the lace there to give the illusion of sexiness. Because the prom lady who wears a dress with an illusion will feel more confident and have more respect for herself, instead of all of her necessaries sticking out like this. This is an example of several violations in principles of good prom dress design. Many of the store owners have told me they don't want bling on one side of the breast or nipple area or another, because it calls too much attention to that part of your body. So Um, I'm sorry, my machine just shut off. I want to make sure I didn't lose contact with you. Sorry about that. Um, so the first thing is about the high-low. When you have a high-low with a hemline like this, the hem has to be really perfect, and often case it's not, and it really does demonstrate a bad sewing job when the hem is not perfect. So if I was going to revamp this, I would make sure I drop some of that frou-frou frilly stuff a little further down on the skirt so you wouldn't see the hem as harshly as this. The other bad principles are, one, that the hem is too obvious. It's not very well planned to fit the design. And even though in a previous webinar we talked about asymmetry and that being a really good design idea, in this case the design weights to one side of her body and particularly calls attention to her left bodice area. The embellishment on the right side of the bodice area is like an arrow pointing at her nipple area. That's really not an attractive design feature. And I know for a fact that the store owners hate this. Do you think that's a good design idea? Would you buy a dress that looked like this? And if you really look at the picture and the length of the dress, her legs don't look very attractive. So really, this is just not a really pleasant design idea. Okay, in the next picture, we're talking about slits. This slit is so high, it's incredible. Because imagine that this lady has to be at least 5'8" or maybe even 6 feet tall without heels on. This slit is way too high. Remember that the average girl that we design dresses for is about 5'6" on average. Most of them are about 5'3". And I've been to stores during prom season when the girls go shopping with their mothers. And I've seen the mother have, let the daughter try this dress on. And the mother's just like, no way am I letting my daughter wear a dress like this. So keep in mind that the slit really needs to be much lower. If she starts dancing around in this dress, all of her necessaries will be sticking out. Now let's talk about fashion do's. And this is where you really want to pay attention, because here's where I give you some great tips for ideas for the dresses you'd like to design. You need to look at design inspiration from anywhere. And I'm going to tell you some of the places that I go and some of the things that I've seen. I look on the internet always. I'm constantly going, and if you go now, all of my competitors have all of their 2014 prom dresses. Go look at Tony Bowles, Sherry Hill, Panoply is one of the big companies, Flirt, all of those companies. If you Google prom dresses, you'll see all of those companies. And they all do the same thing in order to come up with design inspiration. They look at European Vogue magazines. They look at old-fashioned books. When I go to visit my factory, they often have Vogue magazines from Russia. And the reason is that the Russian women are so high-styled and are very cutting-edge in fashion. So a lot of the designs that we see come from Russia. So then I Googled vintage prom dresses, and this is one of the pictures I came up with. Look at these dresses. Aren't they cool? The style lines in some of these dresses would be amazing with just given a modern twist to them. Look at the Phoenician sheath on the left. If you took that dress and restyled the lines and made the neckline more plunging and maybe a slit, and then did some interesting beadwork on the back, that would be a gorgeous prom dress. Also, look at the very typical 50s halter style dress of the second dress on the right that's in black and white. This dress has an incredible design line and top to it. Just think if you took that top and redid the skirt and made it more modern looking, how ultra cool that would be for prom 2015. I often look at paper dolls and coloring books for design inspiration as well. This is also a good way for you to play with pencil and paper and begin getting your ideas fleshed out. The important thing to think about is, would I wear this dress? Would my friends wear this dress? Because if you look at it and you think it looks ugly, you really should show it to your friends and ask them to be honest with you, because if it looks ugly to you, it's probably ugly, and you don't want to do that. So be sure to share your drawings with your friends and listen to their feedback. Don't be hurt by what they have to say. Learn from it, because that way you're going to make a better dress. You can even share your ideas with me, as I'd love to hear what you have to say. Don't forget, you can always email me. In this design coloring book by Yves Saint Laurent, the center dress has many great design features. Let's start with the sleeves. These kinds of sleeves are often referred to as mutton sleeves. We see them often in little girl dresses and often in wedding gowns, and at times can be a very striking feature. I personally don't like the mutton sleeve. I think it's very dated, but maybe you can come up with a new idea for it. For my own personal preference, I would like the dress sleeves on the blue dress to the right. More tailored, more, sleek. But that doesn't mean all my ideas are correct either. Going back to the center dress, though, another feature that's very cool about this is how it's fitted and very dropped waist, and then it has this belt at the waist to give it some contour. The drop waist belt is a bow, and that's a really cool feature. However, the store owners tell me girls your age don't like bows. Is that true? Finally, the skirt is a really cool print. Prints come and go in prom. Right now, if you go and look at some of the other companies that I mentioned earlier, you'll notice that there aren't very many prints. So think carefully about using a print in your design. It might not be a great idea for just now. The next idea that you want to think about is starting to make your drawings. So take a very common silhouette like a corset or a sheath, and you can use that as the basis for your prom dress, for your ball gown, for your sheath, for whatever all your ideas are coming together as. Because remember, these can be short dresses too. Not all prom ladies wear gowns. So in this picture we have the corset or bustier top, and it's always this structure, these bones are always winners with prom ladies. Adding straps and making it into a halter will allow more full-figured and plus-size prom girls be able to wear this look. Notice that these two bustiers also come up very high under the arms, so you don't have that wrinkle of flesh that sticks out. In these two examples, you have something that is very tasteful, feminine, and demure on the right, maybe even a bit Downton Abbey-ish. And the example on the left is more garish, bright, and playful. Several years ago, these high-key colors like lime green and orange and psychedelic pink were the rage. They still are in running clothes and ready to wear, but I don't know if you would wear these colors for prom. But using this concept of the bones of the corset and adding a different skirt silhouette could really result in a very interesting design. Add some bling, and behold, you have a prom dress. Store owners appreciate lace-up backs as opposed to zippers, as they can get several sizes from one dress. One thing they also hate is a zipper that goes up the side of the dress that has to go under the arm, and invisible zippers. Even though they're really beautiful and they look so much more professional, they don't really like them because they break very easily and they're a nightmare to repair. Just think about it. If you send a dress to a store and it's a sample, anywhere from 50 to 100 girls might try on the dress and the zipper breaks. That really can kill a sale. So lace-up backs are definitely a better alternative to using a zipper, and definitely not one in the side. The other thing too is, notice in this example, this dress's name is Dazzle. She has a lace-up back, but her lace-up back is a bit more edgy. It's very hard to see it in the picture, which is why I suggest you go to my website and look up the dress, and then you can magnify it. They actually used rivets for the holes, and then the laces are kind of thin like shoelaces. So this dress has a much more edgy feeling to it than just being a typical lace-up back. This is sueño, and in Spanish, sueño means to dream. I named her this as she was one of the first dresses I designed and saw from my drawings into a product. She has the more typical lace-up back with loops and a modesty panel. Sometimes, if your high school says you can't have any skin sticking out, they insert these modesty panels that snap in and out so that you can't reveal too much flesh. Now I'd like to talk with you about some fabrics and ideas for do's and definitely do's on the fabric. Incorporate unique fabrics rather than your typical prom dress materials. Typical would be something like chiffon or taffeta. There's nothing wrong with chiffon or taffeta, and if you want to use chiffon, that's fine. A very simple dress with great lines made out of chiffon could be an awesome dress, and actually one of my best sellers. It doesn't have any beads on it. It's just a very simple dress. Be mindful of your choice and be cost effective in your thoughts. As we go through the next few slides, I'm going to show you some good things to look for and some bad ideas because they're too expensive. This is a lace pattern that emulates the idea of animal skins. The animal skin print was all the rage about 3 years ago, but seems to be out now. How do you guys feel about animal prints? This is a great example of lace with lots of bling. Lace is typically manufactured in white and then dyed a color. So in this case, this lace would have been made in white and then it was dyed blue. It's also very large open lace and was particularly used as the design element to have the lining show through. So now the dress has a very interesting color. It makes the blue look darker because of the black that is the lining. For the past few prom seasons, lots of jewels, lots of big jewels like these on this dress are very hot. Do you like really big jewels like this? Do you want that on your prom dress? Oh my God, look at this fabric. Isn't it the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? This kind of fabric makes me have dreams about beautiful sewing and dresses and fantasies. However, this fabric is $50 a yard. And remember, from one of our early webinars, we need a minimum of 5 yards of every type of fabric, from the lining to the dress itself. And so just for this outer layer of fabric, we would need $250 of fabric. And then with the beading and everything else that would be added onto it, this dress would cost over $1,000. Who do you know that would wear a prom dress that costs that much money? For a prom? Okay, the other thing you want to think about is creating unique beading patterns that you would love to wear. This is one that I designed on the left. And then I had the picture, and I wanted them to create this V belt, and I wanted that beading pattern to be at the V. When I got to the factory, they had a finding that was much more interesting. It came pretty close to my design idea, and because it was a finding and had rhinestones in it, all they had to do was sew that on with a few stitches as opposed to putting the 100 beads that were in my design, so it became much more cost-effective design. In the next dress, the red dress is called Rhapsody, and when I designed this dress, I was looking at architecture for elements for beading ideas. And actually, this beading design came from a Parisian lamppost that I thought was just beautiful. And then I went in and created some ovals where I wanted the large chunky stones to go. When I sent the pictures of the drawings of the dresses and the beading design, I asked them to take this design and turn it sideways to make the belt. When I saw the first iteration of the design, when they sent it back to me, it actually ended up looking like a gigantic bow at the V there, and it was really not becoming, and it didn't look like my dream did. And so I actually had them take all of the bow element that looked like a belt off of there and just had them put those large beads around the waist, those Aurora Borealis beads around the waist. And it ended up being a much better design. This is my dress called Sueño. And I wanted to show you the drawing, what she looked like when I drew her. And this is the only dress out of the 50 drawings that I sent that they accurately depicted what I drew and made the dress exactly as I pictured it. When I saw this dress, they mailed it to me to meet my approval. And I started crying because it was like the first time I saw one of my drawings in real life. The beading and the bling play a huge part in the finished design, so keep in mind what you want your dress to look like. You can create another drawing like the one in the previous slide that is just your beading design. If you feel like it needs a lot of notes so that I'll understand better what you're trying to do, feel free to include as many drawings to express your specific bead design for your gown. Ask your classmates, would you wear this dress? What would your dream dress be? So in review, let's go over some key ideas here. First thing, I really want you to think hard about what the bones of your dress will look like. And by bones, I mean the skeleton. Do some sketches of the design lines, much like what you see on a pattern when you go to the sewing store. Refer to the silhouettes we discussed in a previous webinar, those that are popular. It seems to me from the Golden Globe Awards that a lot of the women were still wearing mermaid style, so that seems like it's still a very hot style. I'm not saying that everybody has to make a mermaid dress, I'm just saying that's an idea. After you get the bones, then think about the fabric and the construction and what you want that to look like. Make notes, write them down, be as explicit as possible, write everything. Pretend like the person you're writing the instructions to never sewed before. Finally, think about the embellishment, the beading, and now how that's going to add beauty to your design and make it more attractive. But don't make it so beaded and so heavy that it becomes too costly. Start getting those ideas down on paper. Start making sketches. That's what a pencil's for and why God invented erasers, so we can make mistakes and we can erase them and throw pieces of paper away and trace them and go over them. In the next webinar, I'm going to teach you how to draw. I'm going to show you how to get your pictures down onto paper, your designs, and what you need to do and how to outline them so that you can scan them and so that you can ink them. I'm really getting excited about all this, and I really am getting excited to see some of your pictures, and I want to know if you have any questions. So while we're sitting here tonight, and we're going to open the mic to see if you do have any questions, if you're too embarrassed to ask them here, please send me an email and just put in the regarding line Dream Prom Dress Contest, and then I'll know it's from one of you. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Okay, who has a question? What you need to do is type your question in the question box, and Ramona will tell me what the question is, and then I will try and help to answer it.
No questions at this time. Why don't you ask some of your, ask some of the questions that you asked in the webinar, Robin. Maybe that'll get them talking.
Okay, cool. Then I was wondering if I could ask you guys some questions. First of all, I'm sort of curious, have any of you been to prom? And if so, how much were you willing to spend on a prom dress?
Just type your answer in the question box, and then I'll relay them to Robin. Robin, I never went to prom.
Oh, don't feel bad. Neither did I. It's sort of ironic, right? I never went to prom either because, you know, when I was your age, I was, like I said, I'm 6 feet tall and very skinny, and boys didn't like girls like that, so I never had a date.
I made my sister's prom dress
later.
Yeah.
You'll get all the good stuff later when all the other girls don't appreciate it. Okay, so nobody's been to prom and nobody knows. So let's say you did get invited to prom. How much would you be willing to spend on a prom dress?
This group is silent.
Wow. Okay.
Come on, folks, help out here.
Okay, I have another question for you. As we went through the webinar and you saw the slits and too much skin showing, what were your thoughts about that? Did you think that that was bad? Did you think it was good? Would you really like to be that sexy? What do you think about that?
Okay, while they're typing that, we have a range here from $100 to $200 on your last question.
Oh, okay. That's very helpful. Thank you.
I think it takes them just a little bit of time to type.
Right. And then there's the goodness of the internet that slows that down a whole bunch.
Kathleen, I'm going to open your mic and hopefully you've got a good speaker. Hi, Kathleen. Kathleen? You had your hand raised. Oh, okay, I'll mute her mic again. All right, Margaret says, I love skin sexy splits on slim people.
I love slits on slim people.
Uh-huh. Sexy splits.
Sexy slits on slim people. That's a good answer. Okay. How many of you would like to wear a gown made out of jersey knit?
You know, Robin, on a personal level, while they're typing things in, I was never invited to prom. However, I did get invited to military balls, and oh my gosh, people dress up for those like they would.
Yeah, I know. A lot of my accounts, I had a really good account in Colorado Springs, which is right near the Air Force Academy. And she always bought red, white, and blue dresses from me. And in fact, I designed some of these dresses this year specifically for her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, no answers on that last question. You got any more?
Okay, so maybe nobody likes jersey knits. What about the high-lows, girls? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you think it's a good style? And also, while you're thinking about that, I'm really curious to know what you think about bows. Is that true, what the store owners tell me, that you girls that age don't like to wear bows? Does it remind you too much of your childhood?
All right, we got two people who like knit, the jersey knits, and somebody else is asking a question. How can I make a modest dress sexy?
A modest dress sexy. You know, if I knew the answer to that, we'd be millionaires. I'm trying to figure that out too. I think, I'm sorry for making a joke, but I think the real answer, and that's a very good question, is, you know, I one of the points that I was trying to make with these pictures that I showed you this evening is that, what is sexy? Well, sometimes a person in a suit, if the suit's fitted correctly and it looks beautiful on them, can be very sexy and no skin is showing, right? So there are ways to create the illusion of sexiness without having holes and slits and low cut and all that kind of stuff. I think it has to do with the fabric choices that you make, maybe some of the design lines, maybe the way that you pull the fabric and maybe ruche it. There are ways to do that. And that's the challenge, right? Anybody can make a low-cut dress where both of the breasts are sticking out with holes on the side, and then, it's real short. Okay, that's sexy. Anybody can think of that. But how do you make something look very classy yet sexy? That is the challenge here. And that's what I'm trying to think of. How do I move the design lines in a way that accentuates a good part of this person's figure? So first, I think you have to have in mind what does that girl you're designing look like? What does she feel like? Is she tall? Is she statuesque? Is she short? They had on Project Runway the other night, this girl made a beautiful jacket and a skirt, but the girl was very short, and because of the way she had the design lines, it made the girl look even shorter. So those are some of the things, the way you move design lines, the way you move a dart, the way you swing the fabric. There's some ways to come up with some very beautiful pieces that don't have a lot of flesh showing but are very, very sexy and alluring. That's a very good question. Thank you.
Okay, we have bows are old-fashioned, and another one said no bows.
Okay, so that's correct. No bows. Okay. When you wear things you've made, do you show your friends? What are their reactions? So do you girls sew clothes, or like if you made a purse or a quilt or something, do you show your friends what you've made? Do they look at your sewing and go, wow, that's so cool, I wish I could do that? Or are they not interested? What do you think about that?
No comments on that so far.
Okay. So I sort of want to take the question of the person. It's funny because I had written this down. I'm sorry, I don't know who asked that question, like how do you make a sexy dress? But here's the question that I have for you. With this idea of a sexy dress, can you think of a star who you saw on TV or Entertainment Tonight or something like that recently, or even in Vogue magazine? They had a dress on and you thought, oh my God, I have to have this dress. It is so sexy. It's so hot. Does anybody have an example? Like the Golden Globe Awards were on. If you go to my Facebook page, I picked out some of the dresses that I just thought were so pretty. If I had somewhere to go, I'd want to wear them. Is there anything that, like on the music awards or Taylor Swift was wearing a dress and you just thought it was so hot that you wish you could have it? Is there anything like that?
While they're answering that, we had a pop-up from Emily to the last question, and they said that, yes, they like what she sews.
Oh, good. That's great, Emily. Then keep sewing. Okay, so while you're thinking about and writing that one, do you like the dresses that are very flashy with big jewels, or do you prefer something more sedate and quiet? Do you want all that bling bling on your dresses? Is that still very popular amongst prom ladies, or is that old, starting to be like old-fashioned and now we need to move on to something else?
All right, Emily says she's not into bling.
You're not into bling. Good, Emily. That's so helpful. I can hardly wait to see what you're sewing.
And then Margaret says she loves beads, large jewelry, and flashy dresses.
Okay, okay. Is there anything else about prom dresses you think I need to know? I've been teaching you all of this stuff in the last 2 weeks and through the webinars. Is there something you think I'm missing or something that you think I need to understand?
While we're waiting for that, how many styles do you usually come out with in a season?
I usually, I'm very pointed to only come up with 60. And the reason, that's a really good question, and the reason is because a lot of my competitors have 300 to 500 styles.
Wow.
And first of all, the fashion shows take 3 to 4 hours, and the buyers can't sit there that long. And I discussed this with a marketing professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and she told me that after 60 pieces of anything, like if you want to see 60 pairs of shoes, 60 kinds of candy, you can't remember after the 60th one. So I break my line down into very specific, like 10 ball gowns, 10 A-lines, 10 A-lines with, with a slit, 10 sequins, etc., 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 10 short dresses. So by the time I'm done, I have 60 pieces.
And does that include any carryover from the last season or before?
Usually there are about 10 carryovers. Like the one dress that I showed you this evening, Dazzle, I only made it in silver this year, and I think it would be really pretty in purple and a few other colors, and it's a very typical style of a dress that doesn't really go out of style from year to year. And so I think I'm going to have them do it over again, like in purple and red. I guess that's another question I have for you guys. What's your favorite color for a prom dress?
All right, while they're answering that, Margaret wants to know what styles are good for large, busty women.
That's a very good question. I think if you go and look at my website, first of all, you'll notice that I have plus-size dresses. You'll notice that a lot of them are halters. That doesn't say that every large-busted woman has to wear a halter dress, but you'll also notice that I went to great lengths to make sure that the measurement from where your true waist is up into the underarm is at least 10 inches, so that that piece that goes under your arm, A, covers a very large busted woman, and B, if you wear a strapless gown, I don't care if you're skinny or you're a plus-size woman, if that piece doesn't go up high enough under your arm, there's this little piece of flesh that sticks out that even on the skinniest model will look like a piece of fat, because, and then if you notice too, they're always pulling the dress up. So the thing is, you want to make sure that that goes up high. So one thing I suggest is you go look at my plus size dresses on my website. And then the other thing too is I think for larger busted women, another design feature that's been really popular this year is how they've been using illusion, like skin color illusion, or a pink illusion on a pink dress, and then putting a lot of beads on that. I think those kind of styles, that's another way also to answer the other girl's question, like how do I create something that's really sexy? I think that see-through illusion stuff, whether it's the same color as the dress or flesh color, it's very hot, it's very sexy, and it also can cover up a lot of problems so a person who does have a large bust can be comfortable in the dress. That's also a good thing about a lace-up back too. Now, if you do an illusion on the top, clearly that has to have a zipper in it. It can't have lace-up, especially if it's illusion in the back. That's a really good question.
All right, and as for your color question, somebody answered silver or gold. And then Emily would also like you to repeat your website.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you for that question. My website is Attitude Couture. That's spelled A-T-T-I-T-U-D-E, no space, Couture, COUTURE.com. And that's www. And then if you need to email me, it's info@attitudecouture.com. And let me know what you think of the website. Okay, so if anybody doesn't have any other questions, I want you to remember that you can find all the information you need at ASG's website and at Design Your Dream Prom Dress. And remember, the lucky winner gets to come to New York with me next year for Prom and Bridal, and the show's called Knots. And I found out today the dates are October 11th to 13th, and it's in Midtown Manhattan, which means you're going to be able to go out to eat for dinner at really exciting places. And we'll be showing Prom and Bridal for 2015. How exciting is that? So I'll see you guys at the next webinar, and I look forward to seeing some of your sketches if you need any help or have any ideas. Let's work together really hard and come up for the new face of prom. And thank you so much for all your help tonight. That was really, really helpful. Bye now.
And I just want to remind you that the recordings of the series are on the ASG YouTube channel for anyone who wishes to view all of the recordings, and they are also on the ASG.org website for members to view. Thank you for attending.